I've always wanted to introduce this man this way, so I'm going to do it. I now have my opportunity to do it. On the Mercedes-Benz Vans phone line is a man, when Urban Meyer said scouts are lazy, he was talking about this man.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Is that wrong?
I mean, it's...
All right.
I don't know.
He wasn't talking about this man. I'm being told he was not talking about this man. Love him on the Move the Sticks podcast with Bucky Brooks, my colleague from the NFL Media Group and NFL Network, Daniel Jeremiah. How are you, DJ?
Well, I'm doing great, Rich. Just woke up from a long nap. I try to get my 12 hours of sleep in if I can,
Just like all evaluators, right? All scouts are so lazy.
Yeah, I heard rumblings of that that had taken place. So that made its way to the scouting community.
Really? You mean scouts talk? Is that what you're saying, Daniel?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
A little bit, yeah.
So
that's I mean, by the way, Doug Peterson. If they say isn't it like a Seinfeld episode? It's like kind of who you want to follow. Like that is the one right there. That is the one you want to follow.
I mean, because who says such a thing like that with scouts in the room, Daniel? Who says that? I mean,
I don't know.
No, I know.
Yeah, it's not good.
I know.
I don't know even how to respond to it, Rich. It's just so outside of anything I've ever been around or anybody I've ever been around, especially if you have any knowledge of what that, the grind of that specific profession, like you have no clue what you're talking about if that's your take.
Because I was talking about this yesterday, and again, this is the Athletic article that about Urban Meyer's tenure in Jacksonville, that he didn't know who Aaron Donald was prior to playing the Rams. And the same thing that was also mentioned about Jamal Adams prior to playing the Seattle Seahawks. And a number of people that were responding to this video on either YouTube or Twitter were like, had to be facetious. He had to be sarcastic, but I don't know about that, Daniel, I don't know about that.
I mean, he lived in the college world for so long, and a lot of times, and I'll give him this one flyer, I guess, is a lot of times college coaches don't spend a lot of time watching NFL football. Their Sundays are spent trying to get ready for the team they play the next week. So I can understand that from a college coach's perspective, but some of them, like there's 30, 40 guys you would think you couldn't help but know who they were, even if you never flipped on the TV on a Sunday.
All right, well, let's get to the here and now then, Daniel Jeremiah. What did you think of the Tyreek Hill trade? I mean, where the hell did that come from, too,
Yeah, I'd heard rumblings of it a few days before it went down. And, it was kind of like, I think Rosenhaus kind of explained it. Once the Davante Adams trade and contract happened, then that kind of changed their thinking on what type of a deal they would accept to go back to Kansas City. And once the numbers got where they were headed, I think Kansas City, had to make a tough decision. Now, I talked to another GM in the league about why in the world would Kansas City move on. I see Tyreek Hill twice a year doing the Charger games, and I know every game plan starts with him and how you keep him from beating you on one play, which he's done so many times. So why in the world would they ever, let him leave the building?
Right.
And they said, look, the Mahomes contract, the way it was structured, his base salary is only like $1 million and change. So that's how you end up manipulating the salary cap, is you can drop those numbers down, bonus people out, amortize it over the length of the deal. So they didn't really have a lot of wiggle room. And the fact that you had your left tackle in Orlando Brown on that franchise tag, there's no wiggle room. That's a big number that's taken up a lot of their cap space. So he said it was just going to be kind of difficult for them to do that this year and going forward. They didn't have a ton of room. So they got some flexibility out of the deal. But that's, it's not often you see somebody who's literally the most dynamic weapon in the NFL that hits the trade market.
So I guess, for me, it's clearly down to the trigger man in Miami more than not, Tua. So
Yeah.
what do you think of what Mike McDaniel is putting together? And do you think it could also be for Teddy Bridgewater too? What do you think, DJ?
Well, I think they're going to give Tua. I think they'll give Tua every opportunity, and there's two ways to get to a 50-yard completion, Rich. You can throw the ball 50 yards and have it caught and the guy gets tackled, or you can throw it 3 yards and let him run 47 yards with it. And I think they've surrounded Tua with guys that can do the latter. I mean, when you think about the weapons they have with Waddle and Tyreek Hill, and, it's bubble screens, it's speed shovels, it's shallow crosses, it's slants, like the stuff that he is really good at, with his quick hands, quick release. He's very accurate underneath and intermediate. I think they're going to just try and get those guys the ball out in space and make the rest of the league try and tackle him. Gesicki is another one. He's one of the faster tight ends in the NFL. So they have got a track team around Tua.
Well, I guess, and that's what I'm saying, is Tyreek going to spend some time this fall going, well, Pat would have gotten that to me, or man, Pat would have known that's where I was going with it, and the ball goes elsewhere, and then he'll just count his zeros going back to the huddle, right? Or will there be a time, what's more likely, that happening, or Mahomes going, man, we just missed Tyreek. It's such a difference maker for us that guy's gone. What's more likely, do you think, to happen this year? Daniel?
I think that Tyreek Hill chose to make this happen. It was his choice to kind of leave Kansas City and to go to Miami, and he went to Miami for location and lunch money, and so he's got a lot of the ladder there. That was his decision. Pat Mahomes, I don't think he made the decision to move on from Tyreek Hill.
Right.
And I think that will have more of an impact on Mahomes and the Chiefs, at least initially, until they can kind of figure out how to put some new pieces together. But, I was looking at this morning, Rich, and kind of saying, okay, what's a different angle that maybe we're not thinking?
Yep.
And you remember last year how much we talked about all the too high defense that everybody played against the Kansas City Chiefs?
Yes.
And it didn't stop them, but it slowed it down a little bit. And in some key moments, especially their last game of the year in the second half where they couldn't get things going. And so I almost think Andy Reid's saying, hey, this is an opportunity for me to get a bunch of assets. We've got more cap space now. We can kind of recreate a little bit of how we're playing offense, because the quick strike ability that had been their calling card was taken away, at least to a degree, last year by scheme. And I think this is Andy's, time to try and get ahead of the curve, which he's made a career of being ahead of the curve.
Daniel Jeremiah here on the Rich Eisen Show. How do you think Matt Ryan in Indianapolis is going to play out? Match made in heaven, and clearly an upgrade at Carson Wentz. As you and I were leaving Indianapolis after talking to Frank Reich, we knew Wentz was. It was only a matter of if when and not if. So, what do you think about the way that it all worked out for Indianapolis, Daniel?
Yeah, I think they got the best option for them and the best value in terms of what they had to give up. It was next to nothing. So I think that Chris Ballard's patience was rewarded. The place where I will reserve kind of my take on it is, Rich, they don't have a left tackle. They don't have a number one wide receiver. They lost a guard in free agency. Like, this is not, I think sometimes I hear it, this is the most talented roster in the NFL. Like, they've got a lot of holes they need to fill, especially when you look at the way everybody loaded up in the conference. So, yeah, I'm excited for Matt Ryan. I think it's a great opportunity for him. I think he fits great with Frank. But Chris Ballard's got some more roster work to do here. He's going to have to work some magic to fill some of these spots.
So, where's Mayfield going, do you think? What's the conversation on Mayfield right now that you're hearing about, Daniel?
Quiet as a church mouse,
right?
Rich. You don't hear anything. Seattle is kind of the one everybody kind of says, well, I can make the most sense out of that one. But, I talked to buddies that have been at all these pro days. The Seahawks have been sending, folks to all these quarterback pro days, and talking to some friends, he said that the guys they talked to in Seattle, they're really legitimately excited about Drew Lock. Like, that's not just kind of press conference stuff. Like, this is something that they seem genuinely excited about. So I don't know if they're going to be as motivated to do something with Baker either. So I'm running out of options and places for him to go.
Well, I'm thinking, based on everything right now, don't you think he's going to be sitting around waiting until the draft is done to see who chooses what in the draft, who gets who in the draft, right? And then you can flip a draft pick next year. You use your capital right now. You flip something next year to maybe get him to compete or back up. Like, that's legitimately what I'm seeing right now, right? Don't you think that's? Yeah. I shouldn't say anything because Tyreek Hill got traded, Davante Adams got traded, for crying out loud. Who the hell knows anymore what's up? But that looks to me to be the reality of Baker Mayfield's situation right now.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, you say, okay, that's a great luxury to have somebody with his ability as your backup. I mean, I think for whatever criticism people have of Baker Mayfield, when healthy, I think he's inarguably a top 20 quarterback in the NFL. I feel that way. But what do you do with the number? You got an $18 million number. You're not paying your backup quarterback $18 million. The Browns are going to have to eat a good chunk of that to get this contract moved. It's just all the chairs have kind of filled up. I almost wonder if the other option that we're not thinking of is the Browns don't really have anything out there. If they talk to Baker and say, "Hey, this is going to be why don't you just do this thing where we hey, you stay away. You're on our payroll. You don't have to come in, and let's just play out the little bit of the preseason here. See if an injury takes place or there's some issues, and then we'll get this. We'll either move you right before the season starts, or we'll release you at that point in time."
And that's why, again, I'm holding up. You can't see. I've got the Kyler Murray agent statement on Kyler's wonderful stationery. That's why he wants to get paid. That's why he wants to get paid now, right? Like, you don't want to go into a fourth year and wind up like Mayfield, even though that sounds like a long shot. But who'd have thought at this point last year, after Mayfield wins a playoff game, going into his fourth year for a Browns team that had everything on the upswing, the reigning coach of the year and everything, that we'd be in this situation right now? Who knew? Nobody.
Yeah. And also you had Lamar getting hurt, right? Not having his deal done. And you could say, well, maybe his value would have been a little bit higher if he could have done it previously, and he waited and hasn't benefited thus far. But on that note, Rich, I talked to somebody the other day that said Lamar Jackson has been working his butt off over the offseason.
What do you mean?
And he is dialed in. He has been working. He has been throwing every day. He's been getting with different people to work out. Like, he is. What I was told, this is a very focused Lamar Jackson. I think you're going to see a huge year from him.
No kidding.
If he wants to bet on him, if he wants to bet on himself, from what I'm hearing, I'll join in on that one.
Yeah, he sounds like he's ready to do the Kirk Cousins plan. Make $250 million guaranteed, year by year, or guaranteed contract by guaranteed contract. Because don't you think, one last on this situation before we turn to your mock draft, that the way that the Deshaun Watson contract got done, that pretty much every quarterback that's going to get his second contract because he's already proven a certain amount of worth, guaranteed dollars, right? Like, whatever the conversation was between Kyler Murray and Steve Keim, now that everything's been out there and Instagram accounts have been restored with photographs and we're all back to our quarters quietly, don't you think that whatever was being talked about got reset by Deshaun's contract, all being fully guaranteed?
I agree with you, Rich, and I think there's two I never thought I'd see the days that have changed. I never thought I'd see the day where NFL players would be similar to NBA players in terms of being able to get out of contracts and choose their next location. I never thought we would see that. And then number two is the calling card of the NFL has been that they don't do guaranteed contracts. They just don't do it. Don't ask. It's not going to happen. Well, that barrier has been broken, and I'm with you. I think those premier guys, I'd be demanding that.
And I guess that's the last one. I lied. We haven't moved on to the draft yet. Is that Davante Adams is a perfect example of what you just said. He was under a franchise tag, right? They got Aaron Rodgers all signed, and he's coming back. If this was like 5-10 years ago, the Packers would have easily said, "Tough, too bad. We'll see you. We'll see you in the summer. Let's talk long-term contract between now and July 15th, and if not, we'll see you next fall because Aaron Rodgers has got a window and you're coming back and we got your contractual control." That's what a franchise tag is for. And instead, he winds up going to where he wants to go, the Vegas Raiders. It's to get paid. That's unprecedented, too. That's like an NBA player, right?
It's a kinder, gentler league now, Rich. We've got some of these younger general managers that have taken over, and maybe some of the older, crustier guys that would have gone that other route are out of the league right now. I don't know. It would not have happened. I'm with you. 10, 15 years ago, that would not have happened like this.
So
I like it. I think it's great. I think it makes your organization more attractive to people to come in and say, "Hey, we want to win. We're going to create a great environment. And if it's somehow you don't want to be here, we don't want people that don't want to be here."
So then, best team in the AFC West right now. Now that Tyreek Hill's gone, Davante Adams has landed. Obviously, intimately the moves the Chargers have made. We know Denver got themselves Russell Wilson. What do you make right now of it, Daniel?
All right, you want to see how a professional sidesteps a question?
Yes, sir.
Here we go. I think the Denver Broncos are the most improved team of this group. Like, they are going to make the biggest leap because at the most important position, they made the biggest upgrade. So I think that is going to be the team that makes the monumental leap. When you look at the other three teams, they were all right there. You had the Chiefs that won the division. You had the Raiders and the Chargers in basically a play-in game.
A tie game.
Of the season.
Yes.
So, I mean, look, a lot can happen, but this looks like a 3 playoff team division to me. When you look at it, it is just absolutely stacked. So I don't know how you pick a favorite amongst this group right now, but I could make the case Denver's the most improved, and I think, in my opinion, Tyreek Hill leaving the Chiefs is that's huge. So they can maybe come back a little bit. And I think all the other 3 teams move forward with the Broncos making the biggest push forward.
Daniel Jeremiah, well done here on the Rich Eisen Show. A few minutes left with Daniel. Let's turn to your mock draft. Many questions. First of all, what the hell does 3-point? What the hell does 3.1 mean? What does that mean? Mock draft 3.1. What does that mean?
Hey, I don't write headlines, Rich. I got a text message yesterday that after that trade went down, it said, "Hey, the Chiefs no Tyreek Hill. They just acquired one of these first-round picks, so you've got to swap out that one pick."
Yes. Okay.
So I just threw Christian Watson in there, and apparently that took us from 3.0 to the first ever 3.1.
I've never. Okay, now I understand. So you just basically made one wrinkle to what's already was out there as your 3.0, and it's so deep down in the first round. Right.
Yeah, the pick switched hands, so I had to.
And again, it was so deep down in the first round that you don't have to. The domino effect is not significant. So I get it, 3.1. So the thing, though, when you go through it all, the fact that you changed out Kyle Hamilton from 2 all the way down to 11, where Washington, I mean, the Commanders would run that card up to the Vegas. I mean, they might actually start betting on red. You know what I mean? Like, they might just go to the casino after that if they get Kyle Hamilton at 11. And you have Trayvon Walker all the way up at 2 with Kayvon Thibodeau up to 3. Where'd you put that all together on your mock?
I wouldn't spend too much time on that, Rich. But
come on, Daniel, sell it.
Look, safety is a position that's not as valued around the league as I would appreciate it to be. I think he's my 3rd overall player in the whole draft, and you just kind of look at the teams and the priority positions that they're trying to fill, and you talk to people around the league and say, okay, that he's kind of a candidate that could slide down a little bit. But I still think he's one of the 3 or 4 best players in the whole draft. But I think when in a league where Derwin James can go 17th, then Hamilton could fall to the Commanders. So that was my thought on that one. Thibodeau is a true wild card. I mean, it would not surprise me if he went anywhere from 2 and 3 in those spots to potentially falling out of the top 10. But everything that you kind of hear is the edge rushers are all going to go early. They're all going to get pushed up, and everybody's going to try and grab their guy early. So that's why I think we could see, I think I had 4 in the top, 9 picks or something like that, and we're going to see those edge rushers go flying off the board.
And so that you have the Jets going Sauce Gardner 4th overall, leaving every offensive lineman on the board available, which I think would make the Panthers at 6 very happy, right? Like if that's the way that falls. Correct?
Both of them. Yeah, both of them. I think when you look at the teams picking, really, and the Jets could easily take one of those 2 guys and plug them in. But if the Jets decide to go with a corner and get a true number 1 corner in Sauce, then you have, the Giants at 5 with a bad offensive line, the Panthers at 6 who've made some moves but still not a great offensive line. The thing with the Panthers is, like, I kept as I do these, I think, okay, well, there's another quarterback move coming for them, at some point in time, and they have not been able to get anything done there. And here we are getting towards the end. It doesn't sound like they're in on Baker Mayfield. So they're at all these pro days. There's just a lot of smoke there where I was going to say if there was a team in the top 10 that was going to do the quarterback, I would think the Panthers would be the most likely.
And then you got Pickett at 18th to the Saints, and then everybody else dropping out. I thought Malik Willis had a terrific pro day, and you think that if he's sitting there at 20, the Steelers don't take him? You think that Willis drops out of the first round, and the same with Matt Corral, huh? right now?
Well, I turned those in before pro days. I don't think pro days have that drastic of an impact on what happens there. I put Malik Willis to the Pittsburgh Steelers in the first 2 mock drafts, I believe.
So why
I wanted to look and see, okay, if they decide to go somewhere else, what happens? I think this is a classic year. I don't do trades in these early mock drafts. I think it's kind of silly, but this is a great year to come back in the bottom of round 1 to get your quarterback. We've seen that happen in the past. I think that's, if I was one of these teams picking up their high, I think I'd want to get a good solid player in that top 10, and then I would try and maneuver my way back into the back of 1. And now you've got a team like Kansas City that's picking back to back. I'll be shocked if that isn't a spot for a quarterback where they trade one of those back, and somebody comes up for a quarterback there. You've got Detroit, who's picking 34 in the second round, 32 into the first round. That's another spot where they could take one. They have the ammunition. If they wanted to move up to get one, they can move and go get one. So I think that we see the quarterbacks on the back half of the first round with either people making their own selections or people coming back up from the second round to go take these guys to get the 5th year.
And then the last one for you on your mock draft is when the Davante Adams trade went down. I tweeted out it's going to be lit when the Packers don't use any of their picks on a wide receiver, which I've had fun hitting send on. And then you have them with their own first-round pick and the one they got for Adams used both on wide receivers, Olave and Dotson, Big Ten, Ohio State, and Penn State. That would be what we call a bonanza, right, for Aaron Rodgers, giving him 2 young pups but terrific players in his dotage, right? I mean, like, that would be amazing. How likely do you think that is, Daniel?
Probably 0% chance. They don't do it. But I in this mock draft, Rich, I wanted to do. I called it my Gettleman mock. Last year, I talked about how Dave Gettleman never trades back. He has never traded back, and then we get to the draft, son of a gun traded back.
That's right.
So maybe this is. Maybe this is a time to break some norms. I had the Philadelphia Eagles taking a linebacker, which, as our buddy knows,
that's right, Gio. Gio said, "For the love of God, for the love of God, get us a linebacker." He said that on our combine coverage to Howie Roseman. That's right. Okay,
so that's why I went that. I said, let's get outside the box a little bit. Let's get away from our norms. Give them Devin Lloyd, and then the Packers. Davante Adams is such a special player. But you go get 2 guys like that with Olave and Dotson together, combined, you got a chance to replace a lot of that production.
Okay, very good. Thanks for the call, Daniel Jeremiah. Greatly appreciate it. We'll chat again soon. Thanks for the time.
Appreciate you, bud.
Right back at you. Hey, you watched all the way to the end. Thanks for that. Watch more right here.